Universal basic income is inevitable, and it's all because of AI. Even Elon Musk confirmed this last week in his US Saudi investment forum, saying that AI robotics will make work optional, money irrelevant, and eliminate poverty because universal basic income is going to become absolutely inevitable. In this episode, I'll explain what Elon Musk meant and why universal basic income is the only solution to these problems. Number one, Elon says AI is going to make work optional. Let me explain what he means here. What he means is that AI, robotics, automation, and efficiency are going to eliminate so many jobs that work will become optional because you won't have work. So, for example, here's how AI and robotics are going to replace jobs. Number one, there's a huge number of white collar jobs that are research, writing, putting together wills and trusts, doing accounting, all sorts of white collar jobs that are typically very highly paid, well paid jobs that AI is already taking out the initial early stages of employment. So people in their 20s and 30s that are doing the beginning work in these professions as they grow, they're losing out. Those jobs are going away. I just had a conversation with a lawyer the other day, and he said he expects 50% of law will be done by AI within the next 5 to 7 years. It's going to go away fast. And those are people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. To give you an idea of the impact on that, New York City has 20 million people, and it has over 5 million people that are working in the city itself. Of those 5 million, at least 2 million are white collars. And if 25% go away, that's 500,000 people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, suddenly with no jobs, no income, can't pay the bills. It's a huge challenge. Similarly, if we look at some basic jobs that can be automated, rather than have a worker move on a machine the whole time or do parts and things like that in a factory, if those jobs can be automated or replaced by AI robots, those jobs will go away. Here's why. If you're paying me $25,000 to $30,000 a year on a low-end manufacturing job or $50,000 to $75,000 a year on a high-end manufacturing job, and you can have a robot for $20,000 that works all 3 shifts and can put its own battery pack in and out, can change its own battery pack in 5 minutes, and it can work 24/7, 365. No insurance, no workers' compensation, no sick days, no don't show up because it's my birthday and I felt like taking a day off fishing. No complaints with unions. It's all gone. It's all just an easy purchase for them to have a robot. And for every 100 robots, they'll have 2 technicians. It's going to save them millions of dollars and replace millions and millions of workers. So why will work now become optional? It's going to become optional because you won't be able to have a job for millions, probably tens of millions of American workers in the next 5 to 7 to 10 years. That's a radical transformation, and you won't have a job. It's going to be optional because, again, AI and robotics are going to make universal basic income mandatory and absolutely necessity for America. So again, he says it's going to be optional, and it sounds like you have choice in the matter. And in fact, you probably will, because since there millions of jobs will go away, the government's going to have to step in and help people. Now, if you lose your job today, maybe you get workers' compensation in your state, or there's some worker compensation insurance that pays you for a couple of months while you go search for another job. But if there are no other jobs to get because they're being taken over by AI, robotics, systems, efficiency, and so forth, then you're going to have to just make money somehow. And so the state's going to realize I can't have half of my population or a quarter of my population permanently unemployed. That's Great Depression level. So they're going to have to come up with a way to universally pay income to people at the lowest level of employment so they can at least buy food and pay the rent. Now, it won't be a replacement, but Elon's idea here, it's going to be optional. You can just decide to take the universal basic income, or you can go get a job. I think he's missing the point by a wide margin, because the number one thing that people want from a job is money, but they also want purpose, connection, community, value, fulfillment, a sense of I'm doing something, a sense of accomplishment, right? These are really important for us as humans to have. And so while someone can just give you a check for $900 a week, that doesn't replace all those other human needs that we have. Number two, Elon says money's going to become irrelevant. Why does Elon Musk say money's going to become irrelevant, right? Especially in light of the concept of universal basic income. Here's why. AI, automation, robotics, efficiency, and all these different things are going to just suck up a huge amount of income. For example, let's say you're a city in Iowa and you've got 2 call centers, each with 500 people working there. So they're great businesses. And you think of the income, the person's making an average of maybe $25,000, $35,000, $40,000 a year in those businesses, in those jobs, taking the phone calls and taking your support calls and all that. But AI can come in and they can have 2 technicians per firm, getting rid of 500 people, keeping the top 5 people, and eliminating 492 or 3 jobs, right? But all that income is gone. So what's going to happen? Well, the state's not going to get income taxes, and instead the state's going to have this huge, massive burden. So they're not going to be able to pay out all this money they don't have because states have to balance their budgets. So what are they going to do? Where are they going to get the tax income to pay the universal basic income or even all that much workers' compensation or unemployment insurance? How are they going to pay it? The answer is they can't. So we're going to have to think of a new way of living. We're going to have to think of a new way of money. We're going to have to think of a new way of sharing the wealth. Here's why. Because massive wealth is going to accrue to these corporations. If you've been paying out wages and workers' compensation and unemployment insurance and health insurance and sick days and all these other things, and buying office equipment and renting space for 490 employees, and so that are no longer required in your building, you don't even need the lease anymore. You need none of it. You can almost operate virtually at that point, right? Because AIs aren't robots. AIs are something in a box somewhere on a shelf with a computer in it, right? That's what the AI is going to be. So what does that mean? It means none of that income is being generated. None of that tax base is being generated. None of that money is flowing over to the donut shop, the Dunkin' Donuts, the dry cleaner, the grocery store in these towns and cities. There's this rapid chain of events that is going to collapse the economy if we don't figure out some way to get money to governments and to people. Now, again, I said, and this is the important point, the money's going to go upward. If you own that company, you now save all that money on 490 plus employees. That's in your pocket because you're still providing the same service, probably better and more service, and now 24 hours a day service to your customers. So you're radically more efficient and radically more wealthy. And think of all the robot companies and the mechanics and the technical companies and all the things that go into the chips and the automation and the new fabs. Those people will make money. You're going to see the first trillionaires in AI, robotics, automation, and efficiency. And they're going to be so wealthy, they'll be kings. They'll be beyond oligarchs. They're going to have all this money and they're going to find ways, right, to not be taxed because we already know the tax code is like this big because they've used the system since the 80s to cut and kill the tax code, make loopholes and ways around paying taxes. Some big billion-dollar corporations already don't pay any federal taxes. You do, I do, we do, but the big corporations don't. And so the more the money goes into the big corporations and these big AI, automation, robotic, and other manufacturing and so forth, the less money there is for us. And that means also, since they're not paying taxes, they're going to have all this wealth, pay no taxes, and the government's going to go broke, which means you won't have any food. So they're going to have to figure this out because Elon says money will be irrelevant because you won't have any, right? This is really important to hear the message inside his message to the other wealthy people at this forum. So what does this mean? What it means is we're going to have to change the way we do our economy. AI is going to radically transform the economy, and universal basic income is going to become an absolute inevitable necessity. Number 3, Elon says that we'll eliminate poverty because universal basic income will become inevitable. What he means is that we're going to make sure with universal basic income that everybody gets, let's just say, $750 to $900 a week. But that's it, because there won't be more jobs. So basically, you're going to have the vast majority of the public on starvation income, right? On subpar income. This is going to radically reverberate through real estate. It's going to radically reverberate through the consumer industries. It's going to radically reverberate through every single industry you can imagine. If you're only making $750 a week on universal basic income, you're not going out to eat. You're not buying new school clothes. You're not buying new sneakers. You're not buying a big screen TV when the other TV dies. You'll really have no money. It's survival. It's serfdom. It's AI economic serfdom for the public, and it's radical, unbelievable galactic wealth for the few at the top who have most of the money. So again, the reason why Elon Musk says there won't be any poverty is because having just enough to eat and just enough to survive is not poverty in his mind. In his mind, poverty is the guy on the street in the tent, or the person at the food line, or the person at the food bank. That's poverty to Elon Musk. So what he's saying is, hey, we're not going to let you fail and starve and drown. We'll give you a life preserver and a donut, but that's it. So you're not really going to be successful. You're not going to have the kind of lifestyle that people have had today. And we've seen this. So what happened in the 80s and 90s when the big investment firms and the private equity firms and the big corporate takeovers happened, and they took the factories from the Midwest, the Rust Belt. It's called the Rust Belt because it's rusty now when it was nice before. So the Rust Belt, they took all the factories, they parted them out, sold off the pieces, raided the pension funds, and then gave the corporations over to places in China, Vietnam, and Asia, and so forth. And what happened to the Americans there? Their towns became impoverished. Their stores closed. They became ripe for depression and drugs and all sorts of debt, massive debt, credit card debt, and everything else, and huge amount of divorces and everything else. So what you're seeing is these are the downstream effects of not having money, not having a job you're prideful in, not having a job that you are proud to do or that gives you meaning and purpose in the community that goes with that. When that's all stripped away, we're just a bunch of people standing around with $750 a week in our pockets, but we're not in poverty. I question the whole thing. I hope you do too. I think this is the wrong track. I think that major industries that are going to make trillions of dollars, that are going to radically transform the entire global economy, but especially in the more advanced countries like the United States, is going to leave a huge trail of tears and a wake of disruption and destruction in its path if we don't work together, the public, the government, and corporations, to find our way through. And if we can come up with a universal basic income, it can't be $750 a week. So this isn't a funeral for capitalism as we know it, or for the economy as we know it, or for life as we know it in wealthier countries. What it is an opportunity for transformation. Look at it this way. If universal basic income is your base income, then you'd be able to work from there. And you have two paths, right? Well, actually, you have three. One is you can sit on the couch and play games all day, vape, get high, whatever, and that mythology of what people will do. But we find that's not true. In every test of universal basic income, the average person who has not had income, right? Because usually it's been applied to people in poverty. The average person in poverty who needed universal basic income actually pulls themselves up by their bootstraps when they have that security. See, this is part of what's different between Europe and the United States. The United States, you fail, you're living under the bridge. You've got no health insurance. You've got nothing. You can just actually die of exposure and hunger under a bridge. And that can happen in America. It doesn't happen in Europe for the most part. So what does that mean? What it means is that it gives you a base from which you can move forward. And you have three different paths. One is the couch, right? One, though, is you going out and finding purposeful, meaningful, positive ways to improve yourself, to improve your community, to make the world a better place, to build beautiful connections and relationships, and to have an incredible life. It's sort of like forced retirement, right? So if you're 65 and you've got at least Medicare, so let's hope that with UBI comes, Medicare for all, but you have UBI and Medicare, let's pretend that. It's like a forced retirement. It's just like you're 65 and you're relying on that to survive. It's going to be difficult perhaps, but it has the opportunity to be radically freeing. So there's the good side to that. The third thing is that you could just build on it and say, I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to do something where I'm making $1 per person or $2 per person that I help, but I'm going to go online. I'm going to create a series of courses, or I'm going to do something, whether it's some sort of service or some sort of program or some sort of way to build a business where I'm making money up and over the UPI, and I'm still doing something an AI can't do, which is being personal with you, right? Which is laughing and making mistakes when you make a video, which is being human and real, which is connecting and talking about serious things. That's what makes us human. That's what we really crave and need, more of that, not more of the AI chatbot. So I would just say there's other options. It's going to create a whole new economy. I don't know what that looks like yet. Nobody really does. We'll see when we get there, or as we create it on the fly. But most importantly is this: know that you can learn. Know that you can learn about AI and how it works. You don't have to become a technician or an engineer. Learn the basics, learn the fundamentals, but also keep your eyes open for what's really good for you. What makes your life healthier? What makes your life better? What makes you stronger, smarter, wiser, more resilient, happier? These are the things that are the most important, because time is going to pass. People lived through World War II and came out the other side and still had a beautiful life. And so while we're going to go through this maybe 5, 10, 15, 20-year transition, whatever that looks like, forget any other issue, going just through this, you have a chance to create the life you want no matter what. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You still get to be in control of your life and what's important to you and the people you love and the things you want to do. So that's my message for you. Yes, Elon Musk says it's going to become inevitable. Yes, he says it's going to make work optional. It's going to make money irrelevant. And it's going to eliminate poverty. That may all be true or not. You still have to take care of you and the people that you love. We've got to figure this out. I don't know that I have an answer. I have a lot of ideas, a lot of questions. I hope you do too. Leave your comments down below. I want to hear what's most concerning to you. I want to hear your ideas. Let us know if you like this video. Give us a like and a subscribe. And I'm going to put a wonderful little piece down there for you, a link to an ebook that you can get called Change Your Mind, Change Your Life, because we've got to adapt. We've got to learn. We've got to grow if we're going to keep up with this.